All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Mainly Hoops podcast. If you've been enjoying our content, please make sure to like and subscribe. We appreciate your support. We apologize for the little bit of technical difficulties we're having. We lost Marcus, our previous recording, and we can't get rid of the black screen, unfortunately. But we're going to dive into this game nonetheless. This is at Tennessee, a home game for Tennessee. I think Louisville is slightly favored, though, Cody, correct?
They were last time I checked. It could have flipped, but I'm not 100% sure.
It's a pretty even matchup regardless of who's favored. But Cody, what are your initial thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that Tennessee is like a potential underdog at home in this spot is it's kind of indicative of how they've played lately. You know, they're coming off of 3 straight losses, obviously. Lost to Kansas on a neutral without Darren Peterson, lost at Syracuse, like that game is not aging well at all with Syracuse's recent performances against St. Joe's and Hofstra, and then kind of got, I mean, I wouldn't say handled by Illinois, but their offense got really stuck in the mud in the second half. And I mean, to add on top of that, like they lost Kate Phillips for the season, one of their most valuable defenders at the 4, just like super athletic rim protector who can guard in space as well. And you know, they're going to be replacing it with a guy who's a little bit more offensive centric. I mean, I guess both replacements are a little more offensive centric in Jalen Carey and fellow Mainer JP Estrella, who's actually had a little bit of a breakout this season. He's looked good in the times that he's been on the floor, still kind of dealing with a little bit of a knee injury, but those guys have been menaces on the offensive glass. So they're going to be an upgrade on the offensive end at least, but this is a Tennessee defense that doesn't really seem to be up to par, or at least up to Rick Barnes standards. And I guess the fact that being 13th in adjusted defense on KenPom isn't up to Rick Barnes standards, I think that just goes to show how great they've been in recent years on the defensive end. Just goes to show how great of a coach Rick Barnes is as well. They have issues on the offensive side. Like we mentioned it a little bit, like Nate Amen has really struggled against quality competition, and Jacoby Gillespie has kind of regressed a little bit from last year, you know, kind of having to carry a little bit too much of the load. He's not making shots at as high of a clip, turning it over a little bit. I mean, he's done a little bit better lately, but he did have some turnover issues early in the year. And this team in general has had turnover issues, but this is going to be a really hype home spot for them to potentially get right against a Louisville team that could very well be a top 10 team in the country. You know, their only loss was on the road to an Arkansas team that seems to be really up and coming. And, you know, they kind of lost that game because they kind of got dominated up front and just on the glass in general. And I mean, you're going up against the toughest test when it comes to defensive rebounding and against Tennessee. Tennessee is number 1 in the country in offensive rebound rate at like 45.3%, I believe. I mean, grabbing almost half your misses is pretty ridiculous, and it's probably only going to improve with Jalen Carey and JP Estrella minutes. They're both nearly 20% in the offensive rebound rate category. So guys like Sananda Frew, like Javon Hadley, when they play a little bit smaller at the 4, Kenai Ruths, and the guards, they're going to have to contribute on the defensive glass. They're going to have to gang rebound at a high level if they want to come out with a win here. But yeah, so far for Louisville this year, they've been really good. They've passed a lot of tests, like beat Indiana fairly handily. I think the score isn't really indicative of how well they really played in that game. They were up huge in that game early. Beat Kentucky, Cincinnati as well. That was kind of a tough test for their offense, but they're ultimately able to win that game by 10. And so I think they're a little bit more proven at this point in time, but you know, to go play at Tennessee, it's going to be a whole different animal. This is probably the toughest environment that they've played in all year. But it's probably right up there with Arkansas. I'm not going to slander Arkansas's home arena by any means.
Yeah, I like this matchup for many reasons, but Tennessee, I mean, they've been struggling as of late. They've lost 3 in a row, but before that, they did beat Houston, you know, by 3, pretty close game. But I think they can figure things out. They've all been kind of tough opponents, with the exception of Syracuse as of late. But with all that being said, what does Tennessee have to do? What are their keys to the game to not drop a 4th game in a row?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy that we're at this point. I don't think they had lost 3 games in a row under Rick Barnes, and like, I don't have the exact date. I saw the stat. It was a long time though, and it's just uncommon for a Tennessee team to be in this spot. But what they need to do is, like kind of what I mentioned at the top, is just kind of try to dominate Louisville on the offensive glass and just on the glass in general. Louisville's been good throughout the season on the defensive glass. They're 67th nationally in defensive rebound rate. They haven't really been tested outside of that Arkansas game where Arkansas was able to grab 18 offensive rebounds for a 43% rate. So they didn't really pass their only serious test up front. So I think this is an area for Tennessee to take advantage of. They need to take care of the basketball. They haven't really done a great job of that all year, despite Gillespie especially being a little bit better with it lately. The other guards haven't really been much of a help in this regard. Ethan Berg has a 30% turnover rate. I believe Amari Abrams is a little bit, actually one other guy. Bishop Boswell's has been pretty high. He's up at 26% for a turnover rate. So they need to kind of clean it up in that area against a Louisville defense that gets a little bit aggressive. They'll high hedge ball screens, try to get the ball out of Gillespie's hands. He's going to need to make good decisions with the ball. And then the role men playing 4-on-3 are going to have to be really good as well. Not 100% sure I trust it or not, but again, I think their path is going to be on the offensive glass. And Nate Ament stepping up and having a big game against quality competition. Like I said, he's really struggled so far. There's been a massive efficiency dip when he's not playing a mid-major team. I do think the talent is there and he can break out, particularly in a home setting, but I definitely need to see it in person. And defensively, I mean, they need to handle Louisville's dribble creation. I mean, they have a lot of guys that can get downhill and get a bucket for you. Their spacing, it makes them really tough to guard. And this is kind of where Tennessee is going to miss Cade Phillips, a guy that can defend on the interior and guard in space against these floor spacing 4s and 5s that Louisville has, and like a Javon Hadley, Pryor, Ali Khalifa when he's on the floor. But handling Mikel Brown and Ryan Conwell being, elite dribble shot creators and playmakers for others is going to be really tough for this defense that looks to be a little less versatile this year, but they're going to have to just put together an all-in effort on the defensive end in a spot that, coming off 3 losses, obviously they're going to want this game very badly.
Yeah, this is a huge game for Tennessee. I mean, they have a couple bye games after this. I think this is their last big test of non-conference before heading into SEC play. What does Louisville have to do to pull off a win in Knoxville?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is they need to make shots. They need to make perimeter shots. Tennessee makes it very difficult on you. They force you to make tough, contested dribble jumpers. And I do think this is a Louisville team that's kind of equipped to do that. I mean, they lead the country in 3-point attempt rate at 55% of their shots coming from 3. It's just kind of an absurd number, but they have so many good shooters where it doesn't matter how many 3s they take. If they're getting one up, there's a decent chance that it's going in, I guess, compared to other teams in the country if they're taking this rate. I mean, they have, like I mentioned, Mikel Brown and Conwell. Like, Brown hasn't really shot it all that well. He's done some other things extremely well. I think it's more shot selection for him, but he definitely has the talent. Adrian Woolley has had a couple of great games this year. He's kind of the forgotten guy in this guard group, and he was one of the best mid-major players in the country last year at Kennesaw State. Then obviously Isaac McNeely, for my money, probably the best movement shooter in the country, and he's playing in a faster system now that allows him to get more shots up. He's been really good this year as well. And just kind of space out this Tennessee defense that I mentioned, isn't as versatile without Cade Phillips on the floor. And then try your best to keep Tennessee off the glass. I don't think there's a team in the country that could keep Tennessee off the glass regardless of how much you emphasize it, but they need to do a great job of gang rebounding. I'm not sure their guards can really contend and be super contributors up front, but they're going to have to do their best to gang rebound. And if it takes away your transition game a little bit, so be it. You need to find a way to keep them off the glass, and you need to, kind of harass this Tennessee guard group that looks a little bit suspect with the ball in their hands. And besides that, I mean, control pace. I mean, if they're able to find ways to get out and run in transition off of those turnovers, I think it's going to be very difficult for Tennessee to keep up in a shootout.
Yeah, this is a very good Louisville team. I like Tennessee a lot in this game, though, because just Louisville, I feel like, hasn't been tested a ton. I mean, they had the Arkansas game, of course, at Arkansas, Kentucky at home, but that hasn't aged the greatest. But, of course, Kentucky's still Kentucky. I mean, they're still definitely a good team. But with all that being said, Cody, who are you picking to win this game in Knoxville?
Yeah, it is tough because this is the ultimate all-in effort for Tennessee coming off 3 losses with a really good team coming to town in Louisville. But I kind of think Louisville gets the road win here. I do think that Cade Phillips injury is pretty massive in a matchup like this against a Louisville offense that can really space you out. Jalen Carey having to guard. I mean, he's probably going to be matched up with Sananda Frew, but and then that puts Felix Okpara in space against a guy like Javon Hadley. You know, Kenai Ruths can kind of get downhill against them if they even want to play smaller. They can, and if they can space Okpara away from the rim, it takes away from their rim protection because Carey, he doesn't have a block all year long. So I think if you can find ways to get Okpara away from the rim, you can kind of attack downhill and find ways to score the ball at the rim, score off cuts as well, because Louisville's so good at that, I think. And then just Tennessee's offense just isn't really in a good spot right now. I don't think it's something that you just snap your fingers and it automatically gets better. You know, they have two really, really good players in Jacoby Gillespie and Nate Ament, but like I said, Ament hasn't really stepped up against quality competition. Gillespie hasn't been as good as I've imagined. I thought he was a potential first-team All-American, and he's been definitely All-American caliber. I'm just not sure he's been one of the best players in the country, and I think they really need him to be a top 5 to 10 player in the country if they kind of want to go where they end up wanting to go, which is Elite 8 Final Four territory, but it just doesn't seem like they have that gear right now. So I think Louisville harasses Tennessee enough on the ball, generates enough stops that way, keeps them off the glass to an extent. I mean, I think even if Tennessee grabs 45% of their misses, I still think Louisville can get the job done here with their shot making and ability to space out Tennessee. So I like Louisville here. I think Tennessee is going to try to make this a little bit of a grinder. I think they're going to try their best to keep Louisville out of transition, which I absolutely think they can do. But at the end of the day, I think Louisville makes a few too many shots. I'll say this game's played in like the mid to high 70s. I'll say Louisville gets it done 79-75.
I'm going with Tennessee, actually. I think Gillespie does play like that top 5 to 10 player that we've been waiting for him to play like, and he has played pretty well, actually, so far, but just maybe a little under expectations. But I think it's a great game. I think the Scarborough, Maine native, JP Estrella, plays a good game. I think they just step up. They figure things out. I mean, this is a very good team that has lost 3 in a row. And, I mean, it would be very out of character for Rick Barnes to lose 4 in a row. But I completely agree with you. Probably about in the 70s. I'm going Tennessee 77-74. Cody, anything to add here?
No, I respect it. It is tough because coming off of those 3 losses, this is just an all-time spot. Like, rally the troops, get the job done, find a way to will your way to win. And this team's super physical. And like, if they're going to play at 110% effort, I'm not going to say Louisville's not going to play 100% here, but there's going to be like we need to win this game mentality. And I guess a team that's as physical as Tennessee, it's going to be tough for Louisville regardless. Like winning road games against power conference teams, no matter who it is very difficult. But I do think Louisville like matches up fairly well outside of the glass.
Yeah, I think if Tennessee didn't drop those last 3 games, this might be a different story, and I might pick Louisville. But I don't see them losing 4 games against good competition in a row. I just don't see it. But yeah, Cody, anything else to add here?
Nothing for me.
All right, that wraps up the Mainly Hoops podcast. Thank you for listening.